on 19 Keys, and this is high level conversation.
That's interesting. You know, I recently just came from the Louvre, so I was able to see a lot of the black faces throughout time, right? Specifically when you get to the section of where ancient Sumeria, Babylon, the Persians, and you look at the picture of them, and the depiction just looks like brothers, like just like you and I. You know what I mean? Look, whether they got some dreads or they got their hair out, is nappy, black faces. And even that probably
cornrows.
Yeah, cornrows. Even that probably was lightened up a little bit, but that depiction is there for the world to see, right? When I went to Egypt and I went to the tomb and I see the faces of us on the wall, we kicking it. You know what I mean? People in there doing yoga and push-ups and working out and living. It's just black people on the wall, right? There's no even room for debate. All across the planet, this is so. You can just see the remnants of what was left behind. And there's, of course, you know, what recently happened with the Gemini AI is that it was only creating black depictions and it had refused to create white images. So, of course, white people got mad as hell because they felt like they was getting a taste of their medicine, right? They felt that it was blackwashing history.
Imagine that.
Which, funny, as I'm listening to you now, it brings me to a new term of alien washing history, right?
Great term.
As to take away from the black presence that existed.
Great
and I
term.
also just left Spain. And of course, in there, you have the Moors who ruled, which were black men. And out there in Madrid is very racist, right? But when we think about ancient Greece, we think about Spain, we think about Egypt, we think about Persia, Babylon, all these places, we don't think black men ruling. The history has been white and alien washed so much that we don't even see ourselves in these places. So yes, we only relegate ourselves to one part of the planet that we say we rightfully belong, which is the continent of Africa. We don't think, no, these brothers was in Europe. The cheddar man that was found in Britain, he was a black man, right? But you telling me there's no consequential history connected to that whatsoever? It's just this isolated study of this black man found before everybody else, and then the rest of the history is correct. So for me, as I was talking about origin stories, yeah, I always tell people I claim the planet. You know what I mean? 196,940,000 square miles. The whole planet is ours. So when I travel, I feel at home everywhere I go, not just when I'm in Africa, right? And I think that is a elevation and perspective that we all need to have. But it's because the whitewashing and the alien washing has been done so well that we're not even looking for ourselves in those stories.
Right.
So as we learning these stories, we're thinking we learning someone else's greatness. And the whole time we learning our own. Right? We may be learning about a musical composer and thinking about how they was just brilliant and genius. And we attributing that to somebody who doesn't look like us. So we don't see ourselves in that genius. But in the moment that we say, oh, that was a brother who did that. And then it starts to make sense because as I walk through the different corridors, I'm going through, you know, white history, if you will. I felt zero connection. It felt like it was no spice. There was no rhythm. There was no color. It was devoid of any soul and spirit. All of the Christian era things that they have on the wall, you can tell that this was not made with the same magic, right? Then you start to cross over, like you go into the Babylonians, Sumerians, and all these different places, and you see the art, you see the geometry, you see the mathematics into it. You feel the soul, the signature of God is in all of these depictions. So there should be an intuitive connection that people should have. And when we think about these ancient civilizations that we are connected to the most, it's not because it came from them, it's because it came from you. The story of the Anunnakians is so, I think, interesting to black people specifically, is because we feel a connection to it. Something makes sense in it. It resonates. It's like, oh, y'all told me about Egypt. Nobody told me about what they
Right.
was doing over there.
Right.
You
right,
telling
right.
me it's another story of brilliance on the planet Earth and we ain't got no connection to it?
Right.
So this is where I want to get into the reality of, number one, first, I want to go into the alien thing because I think you brought up a very interesting point on that. The whitewashing of the aliens, which is interesting because first you take a black person, you alien wash him, then you whitewash them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's been washed over twice.
Absolutely.
So you talked about the grays. You talked about the different ways that the aliens show up. If I watch a lot of alien movies, right? I like sci-fi, right? And as I watch them, you would think it does not make sense that even you talked about the story of Superman, right? That it does not make sense that these aliens who are in these different atmospheres and who are around all this radiation, right, would have white skin that wouldn't allow them to thrive in these atmospheres. But in all depictions throughout media, which we don't control, so our imagination doesn't get to narrate what we believe is history and reality. So we have to take their depictions and we don't often question it. Why is all the aliens gray? Why ain't none of them black skin? Right? How come none of them ever showed this depiction of black aliens? Ever. Unless it's like the movie Aliens and there's these wicked, evil
But
looking
they're
creatures.
monstrous.
Yeah, they're
If
monsters.
they're black, they're monstrous.
But
If
never
they're human, they're white.
intelligent black. The
Mhm.
closest we got was Star Trek,
Mhm.
right? And Star Trek went throughout time and show all these different civilizations. And sometimes they come across these black civilizations that are on these different planets, right? But of course, that's not included as a fact. That's included as a fiction.
Mhm.
But the fact of it, the matter is what? What is the fact of the alien presence and the alien depiction?
One, since you mentioned Superman, let's just state it for the record. Forbes magazine published an article and then a follow-up article which showed that Superman should be black. Now, of course, no one here is presenting the Superman character as real except a real ripoff of a real character or a real entity. Quote, Superman should be black is because on Superman's planet, with his home planet star, the population there needed to have dark melanin to harvest the light, the starlight. So scientifically, Forbes argued, Superman should be black. Now, of course, it is the black man who naturally harvests sunlight from our melanin. Very important scientific breakthrough coming out of Mexico in 2002. How human melanin is the human chlorophyll. As the chlorophyll pigment allows plants to convert sunlight to energy. Melanin is now known as a proven fact is human chlorophyll. It has the same power to convert sunlight into both water and electricity. So the black man, Superman, absolutely is a hijacking of the black man's identity. But Superman, of course, is just entertainment. It's just comics. It's science fiction. Nobody takes Superman as real. That's the problem with ufology. Because when they, best of the ufologists, when they give us these aliens, They don't give them to us as science fiction. They give them to us as reality that we are supposed to accept. And in particular, see, every ufologist, this is me, every ufologist that promotes the grays, you are either wittingly, in many cases so, or unwittingly, but definitely spreading white supremacy propaganda, bona fide white supremacy propaganda. See, the grays are presented as ufologists don't present grays, the alleged three main alien species, the grays, the Nordic, and the reptilians. Those three alien species are white supremacy and white racism. The Nordics and the grays are white people inserting themselves into the UFO narrative. And the reptilians are white people demonizing the black pilots of the true UFO narrative. Now, the grays originated with H.G. Wells. H.G. Wells theorized what Europeans will look like in the year 1 million. And H.G. Wells said, based on white people, Europeans being a brain people, they will produce such high level technology in the future that they would not need to do any manual work. So their brain will grow and their head will grow to accommodate their increased brain mass, but their body will atrophy because they don't have to use limbs. So the body will atrophy. They will grow skinny of body, but big of head. The skin will be gray. They won't have a brow ridge. They will lose facial features. They will lose their ears. They will lose the appendages that are not necessary anymore. So he projected the future European in the late 19th century. His future European that was presented as science fiction, but science fiction based on H.G. Wells's learned observation. But what was presented as learned science fiction in the 19th century was made ufological fact. Now, the ufologists are real transparent with these grays so now they're saying they're not extraterrestrial, they're extra temporal. They don't necessarily come from another planet. They come from another time period. They are the future man coming back. But by future man, the gray is by definition of future European. So the gray is transparently white people in the future. And ufology, or the UFO narrative, has been hijacked by white people through the grays and through the Nordics. And of course, the Nordics, these white people from Venus. Nordics are transparently white people, they're Aryans. The Venusian Nordics and the extra temporal grays are white supremacists hijacking of the UFO narrative. Now, the reptilian is white people demonizing the black gods that are really flying those craft. The whole reptilian narrative began immediately after Roswell.
Mm.
And as we documented in our book, the last secret of Roswell is the true description and identity of the bodies that were recovered from the craft. Bodies were recovered. And we identified, we documented all of the most authentic testimonies, make it very clear they were bodies, not just of humans, but Black Asiatics, black-skinned humans with Asiatic facial features. That's a fact. Before Roswell, there was green Martians, and that figure existed, but only in science fiction, not in ufology.
Mm.
Immediately after Roswell, with the black bodies, with America now confronted with the black bodies of this superior wisdom, immediately we see the reptilian narrative entering the UFO narrative. Now, what's the truth of extraterrestrial? I have documented. I said the extraterrestrial narrative of the UFO phenomenon is not only wrong, it's government disinformation. We documented that. The whole extraterrestrial explanation of the UFO phenomenon, that didn't just organically develop and take hold in ufology. The government stimulated and guided the extraterrestrial hypothesis of the UFO narrative. That fact now. But we should not extrapolate from that statement. The brother Wesley is saying extraterrestrials don't exist. That is not at all what we're saying. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad told us, because God told him, that there's life on all 9 planets. 7 of the planets are inhabited in his world. And of the 7 inhabited planets, he points out Mars and Venus as having life and civilization similar to us here on Earth. Now, of course, that begs the question, Brother Wesley, if you're saying extraterrestrial life is real, why are you so against the extraterrestrial hypothesis of the UFO phenomenon, where the two are not compatible? While extraterrestrial reality is real, the reality of extraterrestrial life is impossible to explain the UFO phenomenon here on Earth. One, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, and be clear, the black man of Earth put life on all of those planets.
Mm.
Extraterrestrial life was seeded by terrestrial life. The God of this universe is based here on Earth. The solar system is geocentric in that sense, not physically. Of course, all of the planets physically revolve around the sun, but all life and civilization revolves around the Earth. The Earth was the first planet formed by Allah, not Mercury. Earth was. And the other planets were developed by the gods of earth after and the gods of earth put life on each planet. And none of that life is superior to the black God life here on earth. They don't have technology greater than our technology. Ours is the highest technology too. You know for a fact, the whole extraterrestrial hypothesis is bogus. Every time they present it to us, they show us these grays or whatever other alien configuration, get out their ship, and they have on a shiny gray suit, but they ain't got nothing on their head. So we see the gray skin, big eyes, big black eyes. With that, lets you know how bogus the narrative is.
Isn't there some say that the gray is a suit itself, and that the gray is their spacesuit, and interior is the actual being?
And I know Dr. Steve Greer, I've heard him say that. And there's a sense in which I believe him to be true. In terms of the space suit, I have some comment. In terms of the silver suit, I think there's truth to that, which is why when authentic beings associated with these craft, they've been encountered on Earth, they've been encountered in the deep sea, and they've been encountered in the vacuum of space. And one thing that's consistent is the silver suit, which is probably because, as I argue, the material of the suit is the same material of the craft. And just as the craft is transmedium, as the new term is, the craft, the silver, the metal of the ships can perform at optimum level in the deep sea, in the vacuum of space, and in Earth's atmosphere. It's because of the material of the craft. Now, the material of the suit is likely the exact same material of the craft, which is why we have authentic testimony, or I should say credible testimony of encountering these beings aligned with, but separated from the craft in space, in Earth's atmosphere, and in the deep sea. They all have on the silver suit. Just as the material of the craft protects it in all mediums, the material of the suit likely protects the beings in all mediums. But the point isn't the suit. The point isn't the silver suit. The point is, so now when you can spot the lie, when they present these aliens separated from the suit in Earth's separated from the ship in Earth's atmosphere, they got the suit on all well and good. But what they don't have on is a breathing apparatus. They ain't got nothing on their head.
Yeah.
And that is how you know the account is bogus. Because Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that how the original man created the planets and life on the planets, life cannot exchange and interchange between the planets. We cannot exist in any atmosphere from the other planets, and none of them can exist in our planet. Life is dependent on the atmospheric conditions of its home. We cannot go to Mars. There's a full-blown civilization, black civilization on Mars, similar to ours. Not as wise as ours, but it's a full civilization. We can't go to Mars and eat their vegetation, and they can't come here. So because we cannot breathe we cannot survive in any of those atmospheres without a breathing apparatus. And none of them can survive in Earth's atmosphere without a breathing apparatus. That's how you know all of the video, the fake video of a Roswell grave moving around in some room in Wright-Patterson. It's totally bogus because he could not breathe that air in Dayton, Ohio air. It's bogus.
But I'm just interested to see, how you are currently using artificial intelligence.
So for me, education is the most important, because when I look across the spectrum of how all people build their wealth, it's based on what they know.
So now we're going to a point where the singularity for human beings is when we created AI.
I always believe we should be updated on the technology and to be able to utilize it to be the most effective, right? There's something being built all the time.
Now we are in the prompt engineering phase.
They created this program called Midjourney.
Everybody knows about ChatGPT. Claude.ai. People got to really focus on what's your talents now, right? That work hard, build a skill so that you can have a certain level of leverage in the marketplace is no longer the route.
Every single day when we spend time on things that does not give us an investment back, a return on our knowledge, a return on our time and our power, we're giving up the most valuable thing we have for what? This is something that everybody in here needs to be putting 10,000 hours in. My formula for AI is AI plus NI equals EI, and that's natural intelligence plus artificial intelligence equals enhanced intelligence. But it works better if you're already smart.
The thing about being a futurist now is you used to predict the future. Now,
You just report on the present.
because the future is here.
19 keys, and this is high level conversation.